Hey guys, welcome back to the farm. So today we're going to use up that roast beef we did in the freezer meal. I'll link that down below. But we're going to make a meat pie out of it, but I'm going to do it with a twist. So I thought I'd bring you guys along. It's just gives it a ton more flavor, and I thought you guys might enjoy it. So come hang out with me, and we're going to get this beef meat pie done. Losing my marbles this morning, and that's what we're making for dinner. I'll bring you right back. All right guys, so in here, you guys have seen me make this pie crust a few times now. I will link, sorry I didn't mean to hit you, I will link my chicken pot pie. Fairly the same, but we're gonna do a twist. And in here I have, in my bowl, I have 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of butter, okay? Now, I just grated my butter because, well, I already packed my pastry cutter. So, and actually, I don't mind grating it because then it's just easier. It's good. So, in here, okay, I have 1/2 cup of beef broth that I did myself. I found a soup bone in my freezer. So, I cooked that up. I did add a little bit of salt. And then I think we're going to need a touch more. And then we're going to add a couple seasonings to this. So, while that sits there for a second, we're going to add some black pepper. I don't know if that's empty. I forgot to fill it. So I'm going to add some black pepper. This just annoys me to no end. Okay. I'm a black pepper person. You don't want the black pepper, don't put it in, okay? And then I got salt in there. We're gonna add a tad of keg seasoning. Okay. Now I'm just gonna get in there with my hands, because I don't want to overmix this. This will sit in the fridge until about 2 o'clock, and then I'll roll it out. I think the biggest question I get with pie crust is, well, you know, can I really do all those things? Absolutely. Pie crust is a very versatile thing. You can make it savory, you can make it sweet. When I do an apple pie, I put sugar in my pie crust and cinnamon and all the flavorings of the apple pie. Sometimes I use apple juice instead of water. There's so many different ways to do it. And you just basically pull it together. Sometimes when you use stock, you have to use a little bit more than you think. But we're going to use that up, so I'm not worried about it. And this can be such a frugal meal. Frugal. Especially if you make the pie crust yourself. Okay. And if you have, instead of using a roast beef, say you have a leftovers, right? Use them up. Throw them in here. You have leftover vegetables in your fridge, throw them in there. This will all pull together. Not worried about it. And then it's just going to sit in there and get all nice and flavored. Will all come together. You just got to get that gluten working a little bit. Gently, gently. I'm just going to get my cast iron pan on here, get it warmed up. There we go. See how it all comes together? There we go. Okay. So now I'm just going to wrap it in some saran wrap. That's beautiful. It smells really good. Just going to get my saran wrap out. And now we're gonna build up our beef stock, or our beef stew, I guess you will call it. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna clean all this up and wash my hands, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm all cleaned up now, and the pie crust is in the fridge. So I just chopped up a couple onions here. Now, similar to the chicken pot pie, I don't put the meat in here. I put the meat in the bottom the same way, because Michael's asking me to put it in. That is already cooked, so I don't, and it's tender. It's already tender, and it's gonna sit in this oven at 250 for like an hour and a half. So I'm not worried about that. I don't want stringy roast beef. But speaking of a frugal meal, do hamburger and just whatever you have. It doesn't need to be fancy to, this is garlic powder, about a teaspoon. Doesn't need to be fancy to be a good meal. I'm gonna spill that because I'm having a tippy day today. Now we are gonna spice this up a little bit. We're gonna put some chili peppers in here. Put a half a teaspoon. We're just going to sweat out these onions for a few minutes. I'm going to add, bottom of this thing, some pepper. Forgot one thing. Forgot my homemade Worcestershire sauce there. Now, when I made the beef stock, I didn't add any salt to it. Oh, it's got good heat to it. Turn that down a little bit. Those onions are so potent. Now I'm going to add some flour to this to make a good roux, and I'm going to make a fairly thick roux. You'll see why. Just a minute. Gonna have to add a little more fat to that. So I did get a couple questions on making roux. A roux is equal fat, doesn't matter what the fat is, to flour. So you can use whole wheat flour, you can use rice flour, you can use anything like that to make a roux. It doesn't matter, but it just has to be equal fat to the flour. And you really want to flavor that roux as well. Sorry for the sniffles, guys. Those onions are so strong. Simply because this is your flavor base. So if your roux is like just bland, your base of your stew, soup, or whatever you're thickening is going to be, it's just not going to have the power behind it. So now I'm just cooking out the flour. It'll just take another minute. Now we're going to talk about potatoes. Back in the summer, we did these herb potatoes, and let me tell you, the only thing you can really taste out of them is the garlic in the potato. So the garlic part worked, but the rest of the herbs, not so much. But that's okay. It was a test, right? That's all it was. We're going to use jarred potatoes in this. Secret ingredient, which I'll show you. Now we're going to flavor this like the meat is in here, okay? So the roux is all cooked, okay? So now we're going to take the starchy potato juice. We're going to add that in there. Now, because these potatoes are already cooked, I'm not going to add them to the base. I'm going to add them at the end. Now we're going to stir this around. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that potato water that's full of starch, which is an amazing thickener, and we're going to start our base with that. And now our roux won't be lumpy. Okay? So now I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce. Good glug of that. If you don't have any, that's okay. The lumps you're seeing is onions. Now I'm going to start adding beef stock really super slow. And then we're going to get into the other stuff. Now this is going to make more than one pie. And I'm okay with that because I will make, I will take the leftover pie crust and I'll make like an English pie or something where it's just the meat on the bottom and then a pie crust on top. So there's that jar. Super easy, right? In the fall I will make big pots of this and even not put the thickener in it, and I'll can it and then I'll just heat it up and thicken it, and we have a meat pie. I'll definitely be canning a lot of that for up there. Hope you guys are ready for some canning videos because there's going to be some. Okay, so because we've almost depleted my canning, so I'm going to add this one as well, and I'm going to see where I am if I need that third one. Here's the secret ingredient: 1 jar of chili sauce going in. That just gives it a whole different flavor. And it is so good. We're going to get out my grandma's crocks at the new house, and I'm going to do some crock canning. I'm just going to add some carrots here. I want a good amount of vegetables in here. We're going to add keg seasoning, about a teaspoon of that. And then when this comes up, it's a little more garlic powder. When this comes up and thickens, I will taste it. See, I think I need more carrots than that. And then I will taste it and see if I need to add anything else to it. Alright guys, so this has to be completely cool. I might add the other can of chili sauce to this. This has to be completely cool before we put it in that pie crust, or it'll start cooking that pie crust, and it's like 11:30 now. It'll actually cook it, and the bottom will not be as good. So I will bring you back when I'm rolling out the pie crust and finishing this part up. Alright guys, so got the pie crust flattened out here, and I'm just going to put the meat in and put it all over my floor. So there's the meat. Move this a little closer. Okay. So now I just gotta get around my dogs. I had some frozen vegetables. I put the potatoes. I ended up changing pots. I had to get a bigger pot. I don't have enough room. So I'm going to snap some of these. Put some green beans in here. Michael will just probably pick them out. There we go. Okay. So I think that's enough. Corn here. The reason I don't put all this into the pot while it's cooking is because you'll lose all the integrity of the vegetables, and they leach out all their vitamins and stuff. I want them in the pot. Okay? So that's why I do that. And two, it's not like they're raw, like they're par broiled, like they're par cooked. So careful. Now I'm going to add some peas. Michael's just going out to do chores. We are in one heck of a storm right now. So yeah, so in here, in my mixture here is potatoes and carrots and onions and garlic. So I'm gonna fill this pretty generously. Okay. Might have to cut down some of those potatoes, but and you want your gravy part pretty thick, because those frozen vegetables, they will put off water, and then you're gonna have a little more juice, right? So there, that one was pretty large. Now, and the rest I'm going to turn into a really nice beef and lentil soup. If you want to see that, leave it down in the comments below. So that little $4 roast is going to do this meat pie, probably another meat pie, and then some soup. So that is some real frugal cooking going on. All right, so I'm just gonna get this out of the way. And then I'm gonna get my butter here. Now, this is a me thing. This is something we always did when we did beef pies. If you don't want to do this, don't do this. This is just butter. It just makes the beef gravy it takes it to a whole new level. So I'm just going to dot that in there. Okay. So now, carefully, going to lift that up a little bit. And move that. And I'm just going to quickly roll out the top here. So this is going to bake for about 2 hours. And then I'm going to let it set on the counter for another 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm just going to get this lid on, pop it in the oven, and I will leave my very veg, because I mean, it's really going to depend on what you want in your beef stew, okay? So if you don't want potatoes or don't have potatoes, don't put them in. But this is a real good way to use up your canning as well. And it's really good. Alright guys, I'm going to finish doing this. I'm going to pop this in the oven because I want to get it cooked just in case we lose hydro. So I'm going to get this in the oven and I'll bring you back when I'm slicing up. Alright guys, here's the meat pie. Probably going to fall apart because everybody's hungry. So I'm gonna kind of rush this a little bit, but I'm sure you guys all understand how this works. Because the bottom is still really, really hot, so. All right. Crust is nice and crisp, which is good. This is all we're having for supper. Bread and butter and some meat pie. That's it. Nothing fancy going on here today. Michael is starving. Cody is starving. So I better get these boys fed. All right. Make sure I can pull away from that. That's good. Okay. Michael will probably have 2 pieces. Wow. Move this back over here. I gotta quit moving it on you. Alright. Problem with packing, you know, you kind of got to deal with what you got, and this is the only. I got one more spatula that might actually work better. It's just not too big. Yeah. I ain't got it good enough. But look at that inside. Doesn't that... See what I mean? The vegetables don't go that funky color. Like peas, you know, they'll go that brownish kind of color. But there's the inside, guys. Ooh. So good. Big old piece of potato. Let's get Michael out another piece here. There we go. That's better. See, just wasn't long enough. But if it was to sit here and cool down a little bit more, none of this would happen. But, I mean, that's what makes it homemade. Alright, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you guys like, share, and subscribe. Super excited to take you guys on this journey with us. And hope to see you guys super soon. Bye.